Hello guys, welcome to part 13 of Naruto Rebirth of the Yellow Flash. First, I want to say that this story doesn't belong to me, so if you want to read the full story for yourself, you can find the original link to the post down in the description. I'm just narrating this story. That being said, let's get into the video. Naruto Rebirth of the Yellow Flash, part 13, Chuunin Exam, part 2. Alright, maggots, sit down. It's time for the first exam. Came a voice as long as a long man with scars all over his face walked in and stood behind the desk. My name is Ibiki Marino, and I will be the proctor for the first test. You will have 1 hour to answer the 10 questions. You will not be given the final question until the final 10 minutes. If you are caught cheating for a total of 5 times, you and your team will be disqualified. That said, you can use whatever jutsu or ability you want to get the answers. You begin now. He finished and sat down, and smirked at the look of the horror on the Genin's face when they saw the questions. Naruto's eyes widened, looking at the questions in front. They were easily Jonin level. No Genin except Shikamaru could solve them, and that was because of his insane intelligence. Suddenly, a look of realization dawned on Naruto's face. It was a test to gather information. He said we could use any tools needed to gain the information. So we need to cheat in undetectable way. Smirking to himself, he closed his eyes and started focusing on the chakra around him. They were all anxious, worried, confused, and afraid, except for 2 signatures. Naruto then focused before he found one of them. Said Ninja was writing in front of him. Those two must have been planted as information beacons for the other Genins to use. Naruto thought as he activated his Sharingan and copied the written of the Jonin sitting in front of him. In mere minutes he was finished. He turned his paper around and started looking at how the other rookies were doing. Sarui, like him, had had used her Sharingan to copy the writing of someone who was fluently writing. Hinata was using her Byakugan to spot and write the answer she found find in the room. Shino was using his box to find the answer. Sakura, thanks to her reading abilities, had answered most of the question correctly. Ino had used her clan's mind transfer jutsu to take over Sakura and then read her answers. Shikamaru already knew them and used his shadow controlling jutsu to help Choji. Yakumo had used a mirror-like genjutsu only visible to her to find the answer. Naruto then turned to look at his sisters and best friend. He wasn't surprised when he found all 3 of them sweating. Nice. Sighing, he summoned 3 small toads. He supplied them with the answer and sent one each to Narumi, Mito, and Izan. After a few minutes, the toads disappeared. Naruto looked at Izan, who glared at him. Grinning back, they had a mental conversation. Thanks. Anytime. Turning his attention to his sister, he saw them crying anime tears. Crying anime tears. He already knew the reason for that. It was because he had promised to cook for them if they took their theoretical studies, theoretical studies serious. He had promised to cook for them. Oh, nice one. He knew they tried, but Somehow, thanks to the dominant Uzumaki genes, Uzumaki genes, they weren't able to sit and read. Oh, you mean to say that Uzumakis are dumbasses? Yep, 100% right. He himself knew that the threat he had given them was an empty one. His sister had a soft spot in his heart, which was why he decided he would cook for them ramen as a good effort for at least trying. He chuckled as he remembered his sister's antics. He then focused on the Suna and Kumo teams. He saw that the cat boy Konkoro had used a puppet to get the answer from him. Gara had created a third eye out of his sand and had sent it around the room spotting answers. Tamari had used a little burst of wind to replace her test with one that had all the answers done. Naruto was surprised when he saw the coordinate being displayed by the Kumo team. Samui was writing the answer on small paper pieces before passing to Omoi, who, after noticing the answer, sent it towards Karui, disguised as a lollipop. Wow. After he was done observing, he suddenly turned unnaturally serious and met Iviki's eyes. He then made some discreet signs with his fingers towards Iviki. Iviki became shocked when he saw the hand seals. Those were used by Anbu to send messages without alerting the enemies. He then paid attention to what Naruto's message was saying. Kabuto Yakushi is Orochimaru's spies. He told Ibiki through the hand seals. Ibiki's eyes widened before he hardened them, and discardingly used hand seals to say, "Are you sure?" Positive. He has information that should only be accessible to those with Jonin level clearance, and he was a decent. He has a distant scent of snakes on him. Naruto replied, nodding. Ibiki discreetly signed the Anbus to be on guard. He decided to take this information to the Hokage as soon as the test was over. He then looked at Naruto, who nodded and then leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes. Ibiki looked at Naruto before a look of recognition drew in his eyes. So that Itachi brat. It seems like he is as good as they say. So that's Itachi's brat. It seems like he is as good as they say. Obviously, Itachi Uchiha is training him. Ibiki thought before giving a worry smile at the irony of the situation. The test was to great information in a tight position, but somehow the kid had surprised information. The kid had secured information that could positively save the village. The test was to gather information in a tight position, but somehow the kid had secured information that could potentially save the village. Life sure is ironic, Minato. You beat Orochimaru for the seat, and now your son is screwing up Orochimaru's plan. Ibiki thought as he remembered his old teammate and friend. After 25 minutes, Ibiki shouted and said, "All right, maggots, your time is up. Now it's time for that 10th question. You have a choice on whether you wish to answer it or not. Of course, we will take it. A random game shouted from the back. Ibiki smiled and said, "Well, if you answered the question wrong, you wouldn't be able to take the exams again in your career. And if one of your team members gives up, the whole team fails. But can always take the test again, so decide. You can do that. You can do that, Kiva shouted. Of course I can. In these exams, I am the god. My word goes on whether your sorry ass passes or not, Ibiki replied. But there are so many people who have taken these exams more than once, Karui shouted. Well, tough luck to be you guys. Now we decide whether you will he will take the question or not, Ibiki replied with a smirk. Suddenly the tension in the room skyrocketed, gaining from nearly all the teams could be seen sweating, with a few hyperventilating. A few moments later, hands went up into the air, and several teams led the room. Several teams led the room. The tension in the room was affecting everyone except Naruto. He was simply laying back in his seat with eyes closed. The sight of him infuriated Ibiki a little. He was used to people conversing in his presence, quivering in his presence. Someone this relaxed was somehow unnerving even to him. You blonde, you think you can take the question? Ibiki yelled as he pointed at Naruto. Sure, why not? Naruto lazily replied back. Are you ready for the consequences in the cause that you fail? Ibiki said, trying to darken Naruto with self-doubt. Nah, not good. Even if I am a permanent gain in my dreams wouldn't be affected. After all, if I became the strongest ninja in the village, I will be bound to become the Hokage. Naruto casually replied with a smirk, letting Ibiki know that his attempt had been foiled. Ibiki looked around the room and saw that no one else was really leaving, so he sighed and said, everyone who stayed passes." After a few seconds, a elaborate shout of "What?" rang out in the classroom as Ibiki began to explain the true purpose of the exam. The real purpose for the first nine questions was to see how good your information gathering was. You will be given mission as Chuunins that require you to collect information in very unforgivable and taxing condition. The nine questions were used to guide judge how your gather and relayed that information, Ibiki said. What about the 10th question? Samui asked. Yo, bandana man, mind if I answer this one? Naruto lazily asked. Ibiki's eyes twitched at the nickname before he stiffly nodded, and Naruto said, "The choice to make the choice." The choice to make the 10th question was the real question. In our village, as ninjas, there will instance of for missions with high loss possibility. There is a high risk of being caught or killed. In that moment, we can decide whether to take the mission or not. So we should always be ready to take risk, and ain't that right, bandana man? I need to read that again. The choice to take the 10th question was the real question. In our village, as ninjas, there will instance of missions with high loss possibility. There is a high risk of being caught or killed. In that moment, we can't decide whether to take the mission or not. So we should always be ready to take risk. Ain't that right, bandana man? He is correct. However, removing bandana revealing a scarred head, one should be mentally strong. If you are caught by the enemy shinobi, they will torture you for the bone torture to the bone to find information. You must remember to keep the village ahead of yourself at all times so that you don't give away any information. Ibiki answered as he lighted gas from the glass, who gently became unnerved by the sight of the scar. Naruto, however, wasn't affected, as his own body was a beacon of scars that he always watched before leaving. Before anyone could reply, a purple blur jumped into the room and broke the window in a puff of smoke. A large signal appeared, a sign appeared which read, proctor of the second exam, the sexy and the single Anko Mitarashi. All the guards except Samui were looking on envy at Samui. Oh, Samui. Obviously, she's not gonna be envying after those things. While looking on envy at Anko beauty, while the boys except Naruto were drooling, while the boys in Anko's beauty, while the boys except Naruto were drooling. Naruto then quickly wrote a 9 on paper over the message. Eh? Naruto then quickly wrote a 9 on paper over the message. You rock, Anko Ni-chan. You rock, Anko Ni-chan. Ni. Looking at those scroll, Anko gave a fake heart look and said, "Ah, Geeky, that was seriously a 10. You seriously a 10. You hurt Ni-chan's feelings." Oh, 9. Meaning she got 9 for that performance. Looking at the score, Anko gave a fake heart look and said, "Ah, Geeky, that was seriously a 10. You hurt Ni-chan's feeling. Ni-chan, that point got knocked off because you were early. And don't sell yourself short. A 9 is amazing. Don't sell yourself short. A 9 is amazing." Naruto replied, looking at his crazy older sister of a figure who had trained him in Inverus when he was a kid. "Ah, Geeky, you sure know how to cheer me up. Oi, Vicky, I am not early, am I?" She said. "Yep, you are early again, Uncle," he said as Anko blushed in embarrassment and Naruto sneered. Anko Shishuin started to him and bonked. Anko Shishuin stand to him and bonked him on the head. "Ah, what was that for Ni-chan?" Naruto asked as he rubbed his head. The closeness shared by the two didn't go unnoticed by the room. The closeness shared by the two didn't go unnoticed by the room, as more than one girl had 3 eyes narrowed at Anko. As more than one girl had 3 eyes as more than one girl had 3 eyes narrowed at Anko. The twins didn't like the idea of a crazy snake lady as an older sister. Anko dressing went against the Hyuga code which Hinata followed upon. Sarui's looked off. She had become even more distant after she had confessed Naruto in the waves. More distant. Nowadays, she remained stoic most of the time, and only person she talked to was Kakashi. Even Samui had narrowed her eyes at Anko, but even she herself didn't know the reason why. It was an inevitable relax. She needed to talk to a few people regarding this. "That was for laughing at me, you brat." "That was for laughing at me, you brat," Anko said with a grin. Naruto the smirked menacingly, causing Nanko to go on the defensive as he said, Now, Ni-chan, maybe I should tell." He, however, was cut off when Anko slapped a hand on his mouth. maybe I should tell. Oh, what was he gonna tell? She then looked around the room and awkwardly chuckled, saying, "It's nothing. Don't worry about it." Anko then glared at Naruto, who gave her an innocent smile. After a few seconds, her eyes softened up and she ruffled his hair affectionately before moving to the front of the room and counting the number of teams. Turning to Ibiki with a shocked look on her face, I said, "Damn, Ibiki, 28 teams. You must be getting soft." "Not all. We have a much better crop this year around," Ibiki replied. "No matter. By the time I am through with them, they will be cut down half," Anko said before turning to the Genin. She then shouted and said, "All right, maggots, meet me at training ground 44 in 20 minutes. You will be disqualified if you get late," she said as she jumped out of the window. Naruto sighed before moving to his sister. He then Shishuin the three of them near the Genin meeting spot. 20 minutes later, all the Genin had arrived and were awaiting the instruction. Suddenly, Anko appeared and said, Welcome to the bench of the second part of the venue of the second part of the exam. It is my personal playground called the Forest of Death." She finished with a sadistic grin on her face that made most Genin go white. Enjoying the look on the face of the Genin, she said, "All of you, except you, blonde," pointing at Naruto, "will be given either an Earth Scroll or a Heaven Scroll. To pass, you need to collect both of them by the end of 5 days. You blonde will have to collect both of the scrolls." She finished making Naruto nod. Kiba, in all his inflected wisdom to speak and say, "What's so special about this place? It doesn't look much." As soon as he finished, a kunai grazed part of his cheek, making a cut appear on his cheek. Before he could react, Anko had a kunai to his neck and said, It's brat like you who die first." Suddenly, she felt another presence behind her. Turning around, she saw that it was a Kusha Konoichi. The Konoichi said, "I am here to return your kunai. Thank you. But don't you ever sneak up on me. I will kill you," Anko seriously replied. She then moved back to the front of the Guinness and called, "All right, people, come and sign these papers." "What are those?" Mito asked. These my tomato are papers that said it is no way Konoha's fault in if any of you end up dead. And let me warn you, if you aren't careful in there, you will die. There are human-eating plants along with animals bigger than anything you ever seen. Of course, you don't have they don't have signed them, but you will be disqualified to take the exam." Anko gleefully answered. A few Genin immediately left, not wanting to take the risk of death. Naruto calmly took his paper and signed it before closing his eyes. One thing he didn't know was that Samui was observing him. Unbeknownst to her, he had been attention to her as well, attention to him as well. In both of their eyes, they could be perfect. Both of their eyes, they could be perfect partners. For Samui, Naruto was perfect. He was strong, good-hearted, hearted. If the way he inherited with people was another to go by. he interacted with people was anything to go by. He knew when to be serious and when to be jolly. It was perfect for Naruto. Samui was the ideal Konoichi. She was strong, had a calm and collective personality, and was beautiful beyond measure. Both of them hoped to get to know each other better in the future. Soon the genin left to go to their respective entry sides. As soon as the gates were opened, all the genin rushed inside, hence beginning the second part of the Chuunin exams. That is all for part 13. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Subscribing is the best way to be notified for a new part. That being said, I hope to see you in the next video. Don't forget, you have to subscribe. Bye.